This year, as we commemorate gender-based violence, we would like to create more awareness and accountability to people in the communities that we live in, especially with persons with disability. So this year, FIDA Uganda is going under the notion of inclusivity to ensure that women and persons with disabilities and their voices are heard. And today we have Nicole Nantaba with us to elevate the voices of persons with disability. So Nicole, you're welcome. So do you think people, or you as a person with disabilities, you're more vulnerable to sexual and gender-based violence in a different way other than other person in a community?
Sure, persons with disability are vulnerable because of the different factors. Persons with albinism have faced discrimination and stigma in their communities, and this being the case, they face a lot of sexual and gender-based violence in their communities since they can't speak for themselves. And then the other thing is the poverty amongst the persons with disability. As you know, I've faced gender-based violence, and do I have money to go to report the case? No, I can't. So this also make them vulnerable to sexual and gender-based violence. And then the other thing is there are many perceptions on persons with disabilities. To give you an example, a person who is blind, this person has been sexually assaulted, and I go to report the case. Am I able to notice who did this? Of course, no. So this makes them more vulnerable to sexual gender violence.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. So I can see you've specified the specific challenges that you face, for example, a person with albinism and a person who has an impairment with sight. So do you wish to seek redress for these challenges that you face?
Yes, I would like to seek redress for sexual gender-based violence as a person with disability.
So I just need to understand and make the people understand, are persons with disabilities able to report these cases with local leaders and the police?
Persons with disability are not able to report the cases to the police, or they are not able to report the cases. Reason being, there is no most of the police stations, just to say, they're not accessible. That is why you find that you go to a police station, they lack braille for a person who is blind. They lack all the necessities that a person with disability may need. So this makes it hard for them to report the cases. And then the other thing is, these people are ignorant about persons with disabilities. Since they have different perceptions towards them, it is really being a disadvantage to persons with disability to access justice in case someone has faced sexual and gender-based violence.
So this is just a follow-up question on what do you think the courts can do better to make the system accessible to persons with disability?
Of course, the first thing is having accessible accommodation for these people. A person who is using a wheelchair cannot access the offices of maybe the police or the courts where I'm supposed to take my case to. And then the information should be accessible to them too. So hereby, if I don't know my rights as a person with disability, I may end up being silent on the violence that I've faced.
Okay. So in your opinion, do you think the laws and policies in Uganda are doing enough to protect persons with disabilities from sexual and gender-based violence?
As I said earlier on, the laws are really blind. This is why to say, if a person with disability have faced sexual gender-based violence, I don't know which law is as in my rights as a person with disability. I have a right to a good relationship with a man or what, but then the laws are not implemented to make persons with disability access them, and maybe to be educated about the laws as well. So to me, the laws are not implemented enough.
So would you suggest that the laws are translated into the braille system for the blind so that they're able to understand the laws properly?
Sure, if they're made in braille for persons who are blind, it could be a good thing.
I would just like to know that how would you like the society, your neighbors, the family members, and the community to be more accountable to prevent and address gender-based violence and within the persons with disabilities?
Yeah, thank you. That is a very good question. Uh, in the communities where we stay, if there if there if there is provision for a protection mechanism for persons with disability, that is where you find a place where a person with disability can go to in case that person has gotten a problem. It could be a good thing. And then the other thing is in the police stations as well, they should be made accessible for persons with disability. And as well, they should have braille and other materials that sign language interpreters for persons with disability be able to access them. As well as when you talk about accessibility, the offices should be accessible to all. And we also have to educate the communities where these persons with disabilities are, so as to go away with the perceptions that they have on persons with disabilities. This done, I guess the lives of persons with disabilities will be brighter.